Hey folks, welcome to the channel. I'm really excited about today's build, and we're taking a bit of a pause on the chef knife build to do this build. When I was in Mexico last week on vacation, I'm sitting there watching videos and conversing with Spencer from Heavy Forge. I'll put his link up here to his channel, and we were talking about a kumai, which is a go-mai. If you're not familiar, if you're familiar with a sanmai, 3 layers. A go-mai is 5 layers. A ku-mai is a go-mai, but the layers 2 and 4 are copper. And the cool thing is it puts a copper line down the middle of the blade. And I think these are getting more popular because I've started to see them, but I'm not seeing a lot of videos on them. And he and I were talking about that. So the day I got back from vacation, he and I were conversing over the phone, and he was trying and I was trying it pretty much at the same time. So it was pretty cool, little collaboration back and forth. But today you're going to see my build and see what I came up with and how I did it. So if you guys want to learn kumai, this is the video to do it. So stay tuned. I think you're really going to like it. Here we are, folks. I've got a 1080 core that's 1/8 inch. And I've got some 15 and 20, which is 0.098, I think, which is a little less than 1/8 inch. So this is going to be my outer jacket, the 1080 core, and then I've got copper, which is, you can see it's pretty thin, a little less than a 1/16, probably 0.049 or something like that. That's going to go on either side of the 1080, 15 and 20. That's my billet. So I'm thinking, I was debating whether I was going to TIG these, infuse them, meaning not add any filler metal, but I actually want the copper covered because I don't want it to melt out. So I think I'm actually going to just MIG the edge, and that'll keep the copper from melting out if I get it a little too hot. All right, I need to just clean off this metal a little bit and weld it up. Well, folks, there's the billet all welded up. I had to stop halfway because I had some of the copper sticking out, and I've never welded copper before, and every time it would hit the copper, it would spark. So that wasn't so good. So I had to make sure it was level or the copper was a little lower, but I got it done. Let's get her in the forge. That hot billet you see me remove from the forge is just what I use to heat up the dies on the press, just so they're not cold. You see that I use my really aggressive round dies, and I did it about 1 inch apart, and that's to give more wave to the copper. And you'll see in the finished product that I do get a nice wavy line. Let's talk a little more about this kumai build. The melting point of copper is 1984 degrees, so we're not actually going to be doing forge welding of the steel, and that's a misconception some people have, is that we need to get this up to forge welding temp. We really don't, because if we did that, we're going to melt the copper. We want to get it enough so that the copper sticks to the steel. So my guess is that's around 1600, 1700 degrees, so really not that hot in the forge. So we got this all forged out. It looks like it's around 3/16 thick, something around there. I won't know if the forge weld was good. It's not really a forge weld. I guess I'm just melting the copper to the other sides. You do get some weird cracking here, which you wouldn't normally get, and I'm pretty sure that's the copper affecting the steel. But yeah, I'm anxious to let this guy cool, grind the edges off, and see what it looks like. Well, folks, so far so good. I think that looks awesome. I've got the copper rate well, sort of in the center, you know what I mean, offset. Looks like it's sealed really well. All right, let's make a blade shape out of it. Here I spilled my entire bottle of layout fluid onto the counter, and I was racing around trying to figure out what I could put it in so I could save it. I ended up saving none of it. The great part about the kumai is you can easily see the copper, so you know where you are, so you're not grinding too much off either side. So that part of it's pretty easy. It was also really cool that the pattern just reveals itself. No etching needed, none of that. Just the copper appears as you're grinding, which is really cool. Drilling holes in this knife was a major ordeal. First off, I think it did get a little bit hard after the forging. I should have annealed it a little more, but I didn't. Also, the copper is really grabby and really wanted to grab the drill bits and spin the knife around on me. Here I'm just using my new process of putting in the false edge with my file guide, and it worked really well. Okay, we're ready for normalization and heat treat. I got the primary bevels in, got all my holes drilled. These holes were a pain in the butt. Copper really grabs. I really had to be careful not to chop my fingers off. I had to make sure I had, like I always say, have a clamp on the drill press so that if it spins around, it doesn't hit you. It's really grabby, this copper, and it heats up the drill bits a lot. So I went through a bunch of drill bits, but I made it through. False edge looks really good. Sharpening choil. I love that you can see the copper all through the tang. I think that's really cool. All right. Let's normalize it and heat treat it. So I've done my regular normalization cycles, 1600, 1500, 1400. It's just about to come out of the oven for the heat treat and into the quench. This is the part I was nervous about, and this is where things could go really wrong. The knife could bust apart completely because of the different steels, the different metals, I should say, going into the oil. Ooh, look at that. Cool. That's got to be about the coolest blade coming out of the quench. As per usual, it goes into my straightening jig for the temper. This one was tempered at 400 degrees, 2 cycles, 2 hours each. Here it is out of the temper. It's got some weird green haze to it. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's pretty cool. Now I'm just going to take it to the service grinder and do the flats, just so I get those nice and even. And then we're going to take our bevels down and finish off the grinding on this knife. Grinding this knife really felt no different than grinding any other knife. I didn't feel like it got any hotter because of the copper or there was any other issues. The hand sanding, on the other hand, is a little trickier because copper scratches so easily, so you really had to be careful going over those copper spots, and it really took a while to get the hand sanding nice. Finally finished hand sanding the blade. Now it's time to put some handles on it. So I've picked these maple burls dyed blue, which I think should look pretty cool with the copper. So I'm going to put these on a blue liner. So let's do that. So I've sanded these. I've kind of marked them up with my marking pen here just to give them a little bit of texture to stick to the liners. I've marked up the liners with the same pen. I'm ready to mix epoxy and go. You can really see the color come out as soon as you put this on. Now, it may be tempting to think, oh, I'll just leave them like that. Don't do that, because sometimes just the heat from the epoxy will make these things rise up and separate a little bit. So always clamp them down. So I've done a rough shape of these, cut them out on the bandsaw, left about 3/16 or 1/8 around the edge. So now I will just stack these like this, put this on top, clamp them together, and then on top of 1, 2, 3 blocks, I'll drill the holes right through. Make sure you have a backing piece of wood. All right, let's go to the drill press. Okay, folks, I thought these were the hardest G10 liners in the universe. I forgot I had the stop set on my drill press. So now that I fixed that, I can drill right through. Of course, to complete the ensemble, I'm using copper pins, and I'm putting them in a hand drill and putting them up against the grinder just to put a bevel on each end. I can't believe I waited so long to create one of these 45-degree bevel jigs. It's helped so much. Now I use it all the time. I like to do this little groove in the bevel right before the ricasso just because I think it looks cool. So I'm ready for the glue up. I've sanded the fronts of the scales to 1,000. I really like them. They look cool. Now let's mix up some epoxy and get this thing glued up.